Nelson was born in 1897, lost his parents when he's an infant. Both his parents died of syphilis. He was subsequently sent to be raised by his grandmother, a devout Pentecostal. When he was 10 years old, while playing in the street, he got into a car accident that severely injured his temple. It's unclear whether this is the cause of his madness or he was born evil. Anyway, after this accident, Earl Nelson began to engage in eccentric behavior. Earl's symptoms, such as standing on his hands while walking alone at meal times and lifting a chair with his teeth, worsened after his grandmother died. And Earl Nelson read the Bible diligently, underlining passages, loved to babble obscenities, and even enjoyed peeping on his aunt's daughter, his cousin, changing her clothes. In May 1918, Earl was accused of attempting to rape his neighbor's girl by dragging her into a basement. During World War I, he was put in the military as a punishment, but he spent most of his military service in a naval psychiatric hospital. After escaping from the military in 1919, 22-year-old Earl worked as a hospital janitor and married Mary Martin, a 58-year-old lady. It didn't take long for her, Mrs. Nelson, to realize that her husband was a lunatic. Earl claimed that he was the Jesus Christ, babbled about the beasts of the apocalypse, and constantly accused her of infidelity. Before long, she became seriously ill and was admitted to her hospital. Instead of nursing his wife, Earl was discovered by the hospital staff attempting to assault her on the bed. After getting out of the hospital, Earl tried to molest a 12-year-old girl. Earl, imprisoned in a mental hospital for this incident, repeated his escapes and imprisonments, and completely was freed in 1925. And Earl Nelson killed at least 22 victims in 16 months, from February 1926 to June 1927, mostly widows and spinsters. After seeing an advertisement seeking boarders, Nelson went to visit them, reassured them with a gentle manner, a smile, and a Bible in his hand, and then murdered them and humiliated their bodies. In February 1926, starting with Mrs. Clara Newman, 60, who ran a boarding house in San Francisco, more than 10 women died at his hands by November of the same year. So, the media nicknamed the unidentified maniac the Dark Strangler. And along the West Coast, a large police force was collected to search for the culprit, while Earl moved inland to look for his victims. On December 2nd, 59-year-old Mrs. John Briard was killed in Iowa, and on the 28-year-old Germania Harpan and her 8-month-old son were killed in Missouri. On April 27, 1927, Nelson strangled 60-year-old Mary McConnell in his hometown, Philadelphia. A month later, his victim was 35-year-old Jenny Randolph, in Buffalo, New York. After the crime, he moved to Detroit and killed Manny May and one of her tenants on June 1st. About this time, an emergency against homicidal maniacs was declared across the United States. Police got at the suspect's physical appearance through eyewitnesses. The suspect had gotten black hair, small, stout body, slanted forehead, protruding lips, and exaggeratedly large hands. That's why the media nicknamed the mysterious killer the Gorilla Killer. In the meantime, Nelson gradually became afraid of the police approaching him, and in June 1927, he succeeded in renting a room across the border to Winnipeg, Canada. And even on the first day of his move-in, he strangled Lola Cowan, the 14-year-old daughter of a neighboring tenant. On June 9th, housewife Emily Patterson was found beaten and raped, hidden under a bed in her house. But this would be his last crime he committed. Nelson took the clothes which he had stolen from Emily's house to a second-hand shop and sold them. Earl Nelson, being happy with his money, went to the barber's to get his hair done. But the keen-eyed barber noticed dried blood on his hair and remembered a serial killer who looked like Nelson among the wanted criminals on the poster at the local post office. Earl Nelson, who was arrested on the report of the barber, escaped again this time, but was caught again within half a day. Convicted and sentenced to death, he was hanged on January 13, 1928. Before his execution, Earl Nelson claimed his innocence until his death moment.
I'm innocent. I am innocent in front of God and people. I forgive those who have wronged me and ask forgiveness from those I have harmed. God, have mercy.